The winds of change are blowing now. They are coming in pretty blustery. They are coming in occasionally at gale force levels. Our choice right now is around how will we interact with those winds. And we have many choices. We may not feel that we do, but here are some to consider. Imagine that you're a cloud in the sky and the winds of change are blowing in. You can choose to fight the wind. You can resist it. You can get super grippy and try to hold on to your position in the sky. Or you can try to control the wind and try to direct in which direction it will blow. Be in charge of it. Or you can let go and you can float in the wind and let it carry you where it will. I think we will have a better experience as we move into 2022 in particular if we allow ourselves to lean back a bit, to release the grippy hold on fighting, resisting, trying to stay where we are, or trying to control where we're going, and to lean back and trust the winds to carry us where they will. Our planetary energy theme for 2022 can be summed up in these words: choose your own adventure. Yes, choose your own adventure, whether that's about how you're dealing with the winds of change or many other things we will talk about now. The energies in 2022 are going to be markedly different than they have been in 20 and 21. They will be high and fast, and things will move quickly. Bring that down into your understanding of the physics of your existence and the rate of oscillation of the waves that make you up, that assemble into particle form. The rate of the movement of those energies is what is high and fast. These energies are neutral by and large. They don't have an agenda about what you will do with them. They do come through as threads within the deep sacred current of life force, which is moving very fast now as well, of course, and seeking rapid, exponential growth and evolution. So you can think of, if you've been parenting at all in the last 15 years or so, you've probably had to deal with something called new math. Those of you who know what I'm talking about might be laughing right now. But I want to tell you there is actually an even more new math, and it's not particularly new really, but just a fun way to think about it as we go into 2022 and as we move through 2022 in these high, fast energies. These energies create fast. Creation is occurring much more quickly in 2022 than most of us are used to or even aware of being possible. So instead of 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 1 = 11. 2 + 2 = 22. These leaps, these sudden unexpected leaps, but not incoherent. They make sense if you understand the new math, the new energies, the new ways of embodying your multidimensionality. So this high, fast energy in 2022, it wants expansion. This deep sacred current of life force, it is requiring expansion everywhere in 2022. And so the choose what you want piece, the choose your own adventure, really is here, nested in this concept. What do you want to see amplified and accelerated and expanded within yourself in particular, and as a result of what expands and is amplified within yourself, what you then see in the world in a larger sense, and what you're willing to devote your actions and your attention to. So what I really am encouraging us with 2022 is to dream as big as you have ever dreamed for yourself. And dream inwardly. It's fine if you have dreams that are filled with details about external circumstance. What kind of car, where you're going to live, the house, the car, whatever the things are. That's fine, but make those instead, if you can, just simply the byproduct or the metric of an inner expansion in your own energetics, your own devotion to love, your own devotion to the deep sacred current of life force, your own devotion to whatever you came here to be. And what 2022 is telling many of you for the very first time is, what did you come here to be? Many of you have been seeking this answer and unsatisfied with the experience that you've been having around what comes up. This is a new time of clarity that can come in, because you did not come here to be something that others already are or that has already existed. You came here to become something entirely new. There is no map. We are the map makers. There are no roads. We are making the roads. We will be creating the signs and showing the way. Dream as big as you can inwardly. What is the experience, the quality of the experience that matters most to you for 2022 and beyond? Remembering that the winds can get rough. And like in flying a plane, often the pilot will find, oh, if I'm being tossed around and the winds are really intense, they rise up higher and they get a higher altitude and things smooth out. A good metaphor here. We are in a cycle with 2022 that's roughly a 3-year period through 2024, during which the winds will be the winds of change are blowing, and they will be having rough spots here and there. And there will be rough edges within ourselves as much as what we see outside as well. It is an opportunity to work with the rough edges, to be present with the rough edges without judgment, to work with fear, to work with the way in which fear can be the jagged edge of excitement, to work with the way that fear can be useful guidance, into where inner work is useful, to the way in which fear can be a portal down in underneath into that which your mind is not seeing within your experience. And you can choose to play with, to be with, to accept that experience when it bubbles up, and to just dive deep down in with it. Go in under the waterline, into the murky waters underneath. Go in below the soil line, into the dark, fertile richness below where the seeds are actually already planted and beginning to vibrate and desire to push out new roots, which we see, which we know grow before we see them, before we see the growth that comes above the soil line. It is very important during this phase, during this time, to be willing to work with fear and to not try and bypass it, deny it, dismiss it, make up a story to put it away without really dealing with it. That which we push down and suppress and deny simply shows itself up around us in our inner experience, but then, if we hold it for too long, in our outer experience. This is what we're seeing in the collective. And you don't want that experience for yourself in 2022, I believe. Your awake mind, anyway, does not. But the way through is in. It is not up and out. We need what we have built on in 2021, where we had the both and energy theme, where we learned to hold opposites, we learned to hold binaries, we learned to hold paradoxes, we learned to understand that it is not our goal or our purpose evolutionarily to transcend away from the physical, to leave the earth, to go find some better planet, star system, heaven, dimension, whatever, in some other place away from this body, but to actually bring all of that and more, our entire cosmic being, into the human body, into the embodied experience and expression, and expand our capacity to have the embodied expression of our pan-dimensional true nature. So we began that in 2021, the early stages of that both and our integration work is available. One of the big themes that came up as a possible overarching planetary theme was around integration, that this integration work is really the rich work. But I kept hearing that choose your own adventure is a better way to orient ourselves, will be more effective around that integration work. And it's, of course, it's more fun, right? What's, choose your own adventure. What's your theme park for the year or the month or the day, right? It can change all the time. You get to decide. What's the playground that you're playing in, right? Oh, I want some monkey bars over here. Oh, I like these swings. Oh, no, I want this other kind of swing. Oh, I like this slide. Oh, I want it to have 5 levels instead of 4, I want a big playground. I want a big meadow. I want to be on the mountains. I want to be at the ocean. Understand that you cannot dodge fear, and that Every level of new expansion that you experience while embodied in your human body will create a brief passage that will have markers of fear, and you must engage with them in order to support your nervous system and your neurobiology to expand with you, with your energies, or you will experience a snapback effect shortly after experiencing the inner expansion of vision, the inner expansion of awareness. Before you can bring that into action, before you can start bringing that into form, if you have not done this and developed capacities and skills for how you will do this, which can be done easily. It does not have to be some big, grindy, awful, traumatic, terrible experience. Hopefully you've already done your foundational work around unearthing, understanding the inner roots of core trauma and toxic stress from your human childhood experience. What may begin to open for you now are new ways to understand these experiences as mechanisms for you to work out and express and experience that which you experienced in other lives in a much more extreme manner than what you dealt with in your human life. And I want to suggest to those of you saying, oh, I didn't have any trauma or toxic stress, my childhood was idyllic. Okay, maybe. I love that you have that memory, and I want you to keep that, but I want you to also understand that it's almost impossible for a human to be raised in modern society on virtually every area of the planet without having internalized some traumatic or toxic energetics. So you can sort of play with that a little bit as you see fit. But regardless, we need these skill sets, and so we often create some level of stress or even trauma in our childhood experiences for ourselves so that we then have the experience later of having to work with it. And that then gives us a baseline of skillfulness that we can then apply to these expansion times. And so many of you, many of us, because I've had a couple of these myself, not too bad, but a little bit, but many of us are experiencing kind of returns. Why is this theme of this old shit, this old stuff that I've worked with, why is this coming back? Why is this here again? I was already done with that. Sometimes it's just to remind you, yes, and how did you deal with that? Remember that. Apply that here in the new expansion, because the new expansion requires the neurobiology to expand with it. You cannot escape the human embodied experience and still do and be this thing you came here to become. It's just a must. These skills and understandings are going to be vital in the 3-year cycle of 22 through 24. We're going to see much more fear without skill in those around us and in society. We also are going to see, as part of this, grief. And what is your story about grief? It's useful work to really anchor in for yourself now. What is your story about death? Different kinds of death, not just the human physical death. Have you had the experience before in your life where grief has been a gateway into a transformation, an initiation into a new understanding or a new way of experiencing life in a richer, fuller way? Bring this to the table in 2022 for yourself and for those that you care about, whatever your work evolves into being out in the world, which we'll talk about in a bit. But for yourself, what will you do with big shocks? If a big shock occurs in your own world or in the outer world, or a sudden lightning strike, we're back to the winds of change are blowing, and there may be moments where that turns into a hurricane or a tornado or, a big kind of heat lightning summer storm where out of the blue suddenly those dark clouds come rolling in and the roiling in and that incredible force of nature. I love those, heat lightning storms in the summer. I don't get them where I live now. It just doesn't get hot enough for that. But I remember them from my childhood and just the magnificence of it and the primal, uncontrollable energy of it. This is raw, feral life force in action. This is Earth expanding. She's doing her thing. Beautiful. One of the big themes for many of you in 2022, particularly those of you who have been doing this work for some time in various ways, this inner work, will be how will you step into a new way of having your income generating activities be of service to those who are kind of coming behind, to those who need a map, to those who need a road, to those who need signposts. Now, there are many ways to do this. Many of you will immediately start thinking about, oh, but I don't want to do, one-on-one mentoring or groups or direct service in that way. No, that's just one tiny little fractal that's available. Many of these very deeply heart-based, soul-based, authentic ways of generating income that are very aligned with who you truly are and what your being desires to play with in this beautiful playground. So we are going to see, related to this and related to other pieces, we are going to see a kind of a bigger, I don't like to use the word divide, but a bigger kind of gulf between those who are already experiencing higher dimensional access in their bodies in various ways, and having kind of the lightful experience as a result in their lives, and those who are not yet opened to that, who have not yet begun that, which is the vast majority still of the humans. And they are stuck in a really nasty kind of sticky tar pit kind of energy, which will really be rough for pulling them out in 2022. And so you may want to think about what are your activities in 2022 that can support some of that, whether it's about pulling people out of the stickiness or helping to dissolve and kind of melt away that sticky tar energy so that people can free themselves up and out. Many, many ways to do that. Think about what helps people come more directly into contact with their heart. What opens the heart? What activates the heart? What opens hope? What expands view? And these things can include art, beauty, access to nature, you might think, I came here to help tend the earth directly. I don't know how to translate that into helping others, but I want to. Maybe it's as simple as you're going to open a garden store. And you're going to have classes there that help people with the absolute basics of how to keep a potted plant in their apartment. I don't know. I'm making these things up. But the important point is to see that there are many, many, many ways, infinite ways, that you could express and embody service from your light as a beacon, as an activator, as an awakener. Be open to that. The expansion, acceleration energy in 2022 will make the dark, sticky, gunky, difficult circumstances for people worse. And this is really where the divide will show up in the external. You want to start where you're at. You don't want to get overly stuck in the big fantasy and not act. Now, I know that might sound like that's directly in contradiction to my urging you to dream big, and I am urging you to dream bigger than you've ever dared. I'm urging you to hold space for that which you cannot imagine. And just feel into the size, the flavor, the colors, the vibe, the resonance of that space. And then protect it so that only that which matches that is allowed into it. And the details of where action will be required then come in. They come into your awareness. They just naturally do. Discerning your wise action can always be a challenge. It's a skill that we must build up over time. You can work with your 7-pointed earthen star of your personal legacy work to give you both sort of the larger themes that you might want to engage with, and also as a practical filtering mechanism, as a sort of sorting method for bringing into your awareness the specifics of, okay, where would I start with this? What would that look like now? And many of you have worked with the digital personal legacy materials, either from the live workshop when it was first presented or the newly available digital version of that. You can find that available at our LUMINOSITY container. As you dream big, you may start to truly time hop. You may suddenly find yourself kind of superimposed from where you are, or during a kind of a trance or meditation state, into a future event or future experience that is in your highest timeline. And this may give you kind of intel as well as motivation about what is necessary, what is required, how to prioritize. Anchor the energies of your gorgeous future into the now. Anchor them, anchor them. Choose your own adventure. Choose that theme park again, right? Design it. Keep it well tended. Choose your devotion. Personal, radical freedom requires radical accountability. The highest form of that accountability is your devotion. Where will you bring your devotion into your daily experience, into your hourly experience? How will you make it your top priority to feed and resource and nourish it? Your relationship with your body has been and will be even more vital. Spend time examining your relationship with your body. Do you think of your body as like a factory or a machine or a car? Pull this lever and that occurs. Add this fuel and it'll carry you further along. Is it a transactional relationship with your body where your body says, I am tired. I need rest. I am sad. I need to go be with nature. And instead you say, no, we're going to do these things instead. Here, have some more coffee so we can muscle through and rise up to the occasion. Well, which occasion are you rising to is absolutely the fundamental question of 2022. Which occasion are you rising to? Choose your occasion. Choose your adventure. Learn how to listen to your body. Deepen into practices, whatever they are, tiny little micro practices. It doesn't have to be some big epic thing, but it can if you want it to be. Things that will help your body begin to trust you again. Your body cannot trust you to take care of what is needed, to do what is needed, because 99.9% of you have not listened to it and have in fact just sort of flogged it along like an old beater car that you just keep tossing more fuel into and driving that fucker down the road. Rusted out spots near the gas pedals. Flintstone car. Cut it out. It's not just that your body is your vessel or your vehicle that we talk about for your soul to come here and have this experience. It is your partner, your sacred partner in this work of becoming something entirely new, of embodying your full cosmic being, your full pan-dimensional nature inside this human biology. What could be more important? I am the first to tell you that in my human experience, this has been extraordinarily hard for me. I have struggled in many ways. I have learned many things. I have had many initiations, sometimes through radical, dramatic health impacts where body has gone into partnership outside of me with other beings to come in and be out of harmony in my body to cause inner difficulties, to force my human mind and awareness to pay attention to it and to understand that we are not a single mind. We are a collective of existence within this body. As within, so without. We look at the human society, the collective of humanity, and we want to understand, how do we deal with that? It's right here in your body. Everything you need to know about how to deal with that is right here in your body, which is a massive township of billions of organisms. It is a massive collective. Are they living in harmony? How are you supporting them? How are you listening to what they need? How are you observing the expressions of disharmony within your body and working with that? It is not a coincidence that the most unifying theme of the past 2 years has been a health-related one. Your body is the place where you can work on the shift, the inner shift from an extractive way of existing into a regenerative one. When we do that inner work, when we experience that inner paradigm shift and we shift our own ways of being, our resonance shifts to match that new way of being, this is when we will see the outer shift that we know is required to move from an extractive economics and an extractive relationship with the planet into a regenerative one. Yes, of course, if you are called to do that work out in society and out in form before you have completed the work on the internal, do it. In fact, that calling may be creating a beautiful feedback loop mechanism through your work to help teach you and support you in the leveling up of your experience of doing it in your inner space, in your body. This is what authentic and aligned work really looks like. That there is this beautiful continual feedback loop that is occurring, that continues to move you up that beautiful spiral of integration. We've had much with the cosmic energies have been coming into the planet very intensely in the last 2 years. That will continue. And this quickening is coming from the earth. This quickening is Earth is now ready and is sending up and out its own new light codes, its own new master frequencies that have been created by Earth. She has created these, and she is now sending them out, transmitting them out to benefit the entire cosmos. They move up through your connection to the natural world for fullest, easiest access, but they move up through everything as they move out. So it's that, how will you deal with the winds of change? How will you deal with the flow up and out of those energies? Will you resist them? Will you try to ignore them? Will you try to hide yourself in a giant artificial container and not touch them because they're gross and icky? Will you try to control them and make them part of your own journey in a way that dishonors their origin, that tosses you into a form of solipsism that becomes a place ultimately of despair? Will you ride with them? Will you let them move through you? Will you allow them to just simply illuminate you? This is the new level of integration as we move into Homo lumens as a species. We've been talking about for some time, we've been talking for years about this way in which the evolution of humanity involves new capacities within the human body to access, integrate, and experience energies and light like a new level of human photosynthesis, so that we are using these resources in new and different ways. And we've been doing that primarily with the cosmic energies coming in from above, outer space, etc. They're coming now also from below, from Earth. Now, there was always energies coming from Earth, but this is a different level. This is these are new codes that Earth has created, new master frequencies, new master templates, and pushing them up and out for the benefit of all. And so, ride the wave or not as you see fit, but they're there. And there's a richer, deeper, more embodied, more robust opportunity, quality of experience in the opportunity. Let it come into your body. Allow the human bioluminescence that is expanding within you to be enriched by this both and of cosmic and earthen energies. It is so important now and through this phase that we are in to really connect with and align with Earth, with the entire natural world, and to prioritize that connection with the natural world over our connections with the artificial world. Now, it is not necessary to get binary about this, to say nature versus technology, for example, nature versus the artificial world, rural versus urban. Like, these are not useful. These binaries are no longer necessary. I want you to think about this more like harmonization. Which notes do you want leading the song? And what I am urging for us all is to make the primary notes of our song be from the natural world. And then we can allow wise, interesting stewardship of technologies to enhance and expand that, not replace it. Many of us enjoy the Matrix movies and find those stories to be kind of interesting reflections of key energetic themes. And there are various ways in which, of course, some of the language and some of the memes have been co-opted into various different subcultural paradigms and memes and whatnot. What I want to just reference here is that most people have misunderstood the opportunity within that concept of the movie world brilliantly created by the Wachowskis. We got the part of, oh, we thought we were living in this wonderful little world, but actually it's all artificially constructed, it's fake, it's false. When we unplug the human body from it, then we're out of it. We take the red pill and we get bumped out of it and we can get our bodies pulled out. And now we're over here in this fully kind of quote unquote real world, organic world, but also it's very dystopian, right? It's a kind of a messy space. And we saw I think this was in the first movie where someone betrays the kind of the team because they just can't handle living in that space. It's too gross, and they miss the comforts and the delights that they had in the kind of quote unquote fake world inside the Matrix. They want to get plugged back in. They make a deal with the devil and they get plugged back in. But what people don't talk about is the way in which coming out, getting unplugged, becoming aware of it, developing the capacity to see how it works, allows you to then go back in and play from that space and create whatever you want. I'm not going to do spoilers on the new Matrix Resurrections, which I have watched just recently. I'm recording this, by the way, on December 24th in the morning Pacific time. Sometimes people are interested in that. And I watched it the first day that it came out because I just knew that it was going to be exactly what my being wanted. And it was delightful and I loved every minute of it. And, you know, for the folks who are like, oh, it's out love, you know, you've seen probably some of the polarization around folks who don't like it. They don't like it because of that message. And, you know, Lana's devotion, fierce devotion to her message and how she's bringing that out in the world as an artist, as a professional creative, and her just unwavering devotion to that, combined with her rich, unbelievably skillful capacity to just keep sort of weaving and dodging and threading the needle of 800 million thousand different expectations, requirements, demands of people based on the last 20 years of how people have kind of internalized and co-opted the Matrix into their own kind of ways of thinking about things. I just was in awe. And it was just a super fun ride. I love a beautiful, brilliant, shared story. I think there is almost nothing more powerful on the planet. It's one of the reasons that working with professional creatives is one of my absolute favorite places to be in my work with humans. So think about, okay, I'm in this 3D world and I'm having this more multidimensional experience. Do I want to run away and go be in some other place? Or do I want to bring these superpowers and these skills and these capacities to see so much more back in to the physical world and play from that space? There are limits to what you can experience when you are only in the higher dimensions. of course, there are limits to what you can experience currently in the lower dimensions, but when you bring them together, which is what we came here to do, oh, so amazing, so cool, so much fun. So choose your own adventure, choose the song that you want to be playing, singing, and hearing and dancing to, and what are the key notes in that harmony. Choose how you want to interact with the winds as they are blowing along. One last little piece that I sometimes talk about, I often will talk about as we start to have our capacities and our access to our multidimensional nature come online, it can feel a bit like we're playing, like we're a little kid trying to play with a giant fire hose. And the fire hose is on and it's rushing and gushing out, and the little kid can't handle that and gets kind of thwacked around and can kind of bang you up a little bit. The goal is not, never has been, to turn down the pressure of the water flow so that the little kid can handle it. The goal has always been for the little kid to develop the capacity to handle that flow. There is an innocence that we can choose that comes after the wisdom of experience. Keep on the lookout for the breadcrumbs of that in 2022 for yourself. And if you are experiencing it, step as deeply and fully into it right away as you can, because it is a glorious place to create from. And as you remember, the creational energies in 2022 are like off the chain. So back to the fire hose. We often mistakenly internalize from this kind of metaphor or energetics that our job then is for the child that is trying to handle the fire hose to become the big, bulked up, strong, muscly fireman or firewoman. And that's the only way. It's not the only way. It's also not the only way to choose to interact with that wild flow of water. Sometimes you just put down the hose and you become drops of water in the flow. Sometimes when your body is telling you it wants to rest, that's the only language it thinks you will hear, when what it really is telling you is, can we go be drops of water, please, instead of trying to control this fire hose. And when we put down that particular mechanism of obligation, or of should, or not good enough, or must do, or grind and hustle, yes, let that huge, beautiful, forceful stream of water just carry me along. Let me be drops of water. Let me turn the fire hose into a giant sprinkler that my little kid can go running through and dancing in and seeing all the little rainbow prisms of the water in the sunlight. The little drops of water soaring through the air against the deep, rich blue sky with its lilac overtones, and the beautiful sunlight coming in and turning those little water drops into little rainbows everywhere. You can choose to be one of those little droplets of water, one of those little rainbows. You can choose all of these things at any time, in any rhythm that suits you. Choose your own adventure. It's always there for you. I will see you on the playground. I love you. Thank you for your light in the world.